Can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay. Sometimes what appears to be an ideal situation is not always ideal as it appears. And I say this qualifying that right now you look at me and I'm happier than I've ever been. And now, about 8.5, 9 years ago, my wife and I moved from Camarillo to Los Angeles, to Echo Park specifically. And I didn't know how miserable I was, until I left it. It was like leaving Camarillo was a cloud, a dark cloud that had existed over me, and living a life of ignorant misery. And I came to Los Angeles, and all of a sudden the air was clear and it was sunny. Yeah. And now I have to tell you, I was living in Los Angeles, in Camarillo, because my wife was a doctor, and she was lured into a good practice opportunity in the nearby town of Oxnard, which is not as bad as it sounds. And we were in Camarillo, we were really fishes out of water. For example, most of the other doctors there were like country club Republicans, and we're not. And also, Camarillo is a place that's described as, quote, a great place to raise children, unquote, which is really a euphemism for, quote, fucking pathologically dull, unquote. So we moved to Los Angeles, we moved to Echo Park. We wanted to be in Echo Park because we liked the stairways. We liked the fact that we could rub elbows with people, every demographic. We were politically like-minded people. We were near the Arts District downtown at Disney Hall. This is what we wanted. We could have moved almost anywhere. And so we bought a fixer-upper, and we proceeded to fix it up. And also we proceeded to deplete our savings and investment and our retirement accounts, fixing it up. And my wife had retired being a doctor, and I still work part-time as a trust administrator. I mean, office is a desk in our house. It's that and a cell phone are all I really need. And this is the first time in our long marriage that we were together all the time. And now we were getting on each other's nerves. Or let me put it this way, I, being the main character in this story, was, without intent or motivation, getting on my wife's nerves. And she wanted me to get out of the house. Now, at the same time, we were doing the construction. We moved to the building just to the south of us. We were lucky we were able to rent next door. And that was lucky, but unluckily we had a neighbor just on the other side of us in a triplex, a woman called Allison with a Y. Now, Allison was like in her young 40s. She had, in the late 90s and the early aughts, she had a lucrative and successful career in a soap opera and in a TV series. And since then, her career sputtered. And she was unfortunately, another bitter has-been, a bitter Hollywood has-been. And she had a menagerie of animals in her house. She would talk to them in this childish voice that if she talked to a child that way, the child would cover their ears. And I just felt so sorry for these poor animals. And she referred to herself as mommy to the animals and referred to her mother as grandma to the animals. And I just, it was just who she was. She took an instant dislike to us. And she demonstrated this by scowling at us, screaming at us, and just issuing these just awful, nasty screeds, horrible letters to us. And these letters, these venomous poison pen letters, should be written in this childish script, these loopy letters, and curly cues, and she would dot the I's with hearts, And these letters were slanderous, and she accused me of being like Donald Trump. She called me an entitled white guy, and they were just, they were awful, okay? So, so anyway, my wife wants me out of the house, and she says to me that maybe I should go register with Central Casting. And I said, is this a joke? I said, there's no such thing as Central Casting. It's just like the end of a cliche, he's right out of Central Casting. But no, she was right. There is something called Central Casting. And I went and signed up for it. And now, just let me give you an example of how ingrained this cliche was in my head. He's right out of Central Casting. Later on, I was an extra at a series called Gaslit. And I played a reporter in a crowd that was in New York City, being held back by 2 New York City cops. And these guys were playing the cops. One was a tall, skinny guy with thick eyebrows and a lantern jaw, and his sidekick was a short guy with a bald guy with a round face. And I took a look at them and I said, God, these guys are right out of Central Casting. Duh. Anyway, so what they do is I got called right away. I got called to be on a cop show, on a police show, and I go to the studios, and I find my way to the soundstage. They check me in, and one other thing I forgot to say is that when my wife said to go to Central Casting, I said, that's acting. I'm not an actor. Actors, they study emotions, they study dialogue, they study accents, they study movement. They do Shakespeare, they do Euripides, they do Tennessee Williams. They go to summer stock, they go to auditions, they rehearse. They can ride a horse. And I can't do any of those things. I can't insult them by claiming I'm an actor. She says, don't worry. They'll have you sitting in a cafe. They'll have you, just walking up and down the street. You'll be background. So I said, it's okay. Again. So I'm at the set, and they check me in, and they send me to just a holding area. And my wife had warned me about this. She said to me, you could probably get some billable time done while you're waiting, which is not a bad idea. So I'm in the holding area, and sure enough, there's a couple of hours of billable time done. I'm talking to my new peer group. I ate way too many pistachio nuts. And I'm called to the set. And the set is a urban police station. So the second, which is the assistant director, the AD, that's in charge of dealing with the extras, he comes over to me and sits me down on a hard bench and says to me, you're an angry citizen who has been sitting here, being kept waiting by the desk sergeant, and he's getting more and more and more pissed off. So I said to him, angry? I'm happier than I've ever been in my life. So he says to me, just act angry. He said, act? I'm not an actor. Actors, they study Shakespeare. They learn emotions. They can ride a horse. And he just cuts me off. He says, just find something in your life that you can channel into anger. And he walks away muttering and shaking his head. So I go through my mental Rolodex, and in no time, I come up with Allison's letters. And when they first came, I was sort of bemused and bewildered by them, and we chalked it up to the fact that Allison, she's got more problems than we do, fuck her, basically. But now I revisited the letters, starting to think about them and take them personally. I said to myself, who the fuck is she to compare me to Trump? Say I'm an entitled white guy, And I started working myself up. And in no time, I was pounding my knees and kneading kneading my thighs. And I was getting so into this that in between takes, I was still doing it. People were afraid to approach me. They were afraid to come near me. And then finally, when the last take was taken and it was all done, the second, they get us off the set, and he comes over to me, says to me, you did a really good job of acting. I'm really happy with you. And, I gotta say, when it comes to flattery, I'm a cheap drunk. And I was beaming, and I said to myself, well, maybe I am an actor. And then immediately I sobered up. I said, I'm not an actor, but I'm a damn good extra. Thank you.